and welcome back to the BlueHub YouTube channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at how you can set up and manage co-manufacturing within the production module within Dia. Now, if you haven't watched any of our other videos on the production bill of materials or production order, I highly recommend going and watching that video first, because it's really going to help you understand the fundamentals of what we're going to be learning today. Now, the co-manufacturing module is one of a great part of Dia, but it's also one of the most difficult to set up and actually process. Within co-manufacturing, there is also multiple different scenarios that Dia covers. Now, co-manufacturing at its heart is where you as a business might outsource certain parts of your operations, or you might outsource the entire operation to a third party. There are two separate types of co-manufacturing. We have partial, which we're going to be covering today, and we also have full, where they might complete the whole operation for you. Also, you have transfer and buy/sell mode. Transfer is where you free issue raw materials to them, and you might transfer it to their location. And buy/sell is where you might sell the raw materials to them, and they will buy them off you. Okay, so it accommodates for all those different scenarios that your business might do, and others do also. So, as mentioned, we're going to look at partial co-manufacturing today, and we're going to be looking at transfer. So we're going to be transferring raw materials. We will have another video looking at buy/sell mode, and we will cover full co-manufacturing within there. So before we get started, and I can show you how it works, there's a few things you'll need to tick off and set up in the back end before you can start processing. First of all, you'll want to go ahead and go to production and settings. And within here, you'll want to create a work center for your co-manufacturing location. So select work centers, click the blue button to add a new work center. You'll want to provide a code, select co-manufacturing, and you'll want to select your supplier listed in the system for your co-manufacturer. So if you haven't already set up a supplier for your co-manufacturer, go and do that first, and then come to this screen, and you'll be able to select them from the drop down. Once you've done that, go ahead and select under mode, and then you'll want to select here the type of co-manufacturing that your business does. So do you buy/sell components, or do you transfer and free issue raw materials to them? So we're going to go ahead and select transfer. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and click save, and we can go on to the next step. The next step is to go ahead and create a location for where that operation is going to take place, and also where that stock is going to be held. So to do that, you'll want to go to Settings and Reference Books. Once you're in Reference Books, go ahead to Location and Bins, and you'll want to create a new location by simply clicking the blue plus button here, typing in your name of your co-manufacturer's location, and simply select co-manufacturing and save. Okay. Once you've done that, one more step to do, and then we're ready to go, and that's go ahead and click Settings, General Settings, Production Process Customization, and you'll want to make sure under the Setting Procurement and Co-Manufacturing Operation, you select the same as what you selected when we were setting up the work center. So if you selected buy/sell, you'll want to click buy/sell. If you selected transfer and you transfer goods, you'll want to select transfer. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and start configuring our bill of materials for our co-manufacturing BOM. Now, I'm going to be using the demo data in Dia. So if you're just getting started with Dia and you've still got your trial period, you'll be able to use the same product as me. Or if you've got a new account with no demo data in there, then you can at least use the fundamentals of what I'm using today. So this product here is an example product that's set up within Dia, and of course when you've got your product, the first thing that you'll want to do is select Production BOM. Once you've selected Production BOM, you'll then be able to click Production BOM, and here you can see I have my Production BOM already configured. In this process, step 1, I'm going to be processing the lumber in-house. Step 2, I'm going to be assembling the wood to make my unpainted chair. And then in step 3, I'm going to be sending the chair along with some box and paint, which will output my final painted chair. Okay. Now, to configure your co-manufacturing BOM, there's 8 scenarios that you need to strictly follow to make sure it works correctly. Now, I will link this page in the description, but I also have it open on my other tab here, which DIA have kindly provided us in their help documentation. And if you scroll to the top of this document, you'll see that there are 8 scenarios, okay? Now, what you want to do is when you're setting up your bill of materials, you'll want to come to this page, read each of them and find which suits your bill of materials best. So for example, if you're using transfer mode, then there are 6. If you're using buy/sell, then there are 2. So for example, in here, we've got transfer mode, co-manufacturing operation is the last operation. 2, co-manufacturing is the last operation, 2 finished products and 1 output. Transfer mode 3, co-manufacturing is the last operation with input. So you'll need to select which one suits your business best. Bit of terminology to help you understand these is input is where you're providing something or you're putting something into that step, and an output is what you're receiving out from it. Okay. So once you've selected your scenario, you can click the hyperlink and then that will tell you exactly how to set up your bill of material. So for example, if you're using scenario 2, you'll need 2 finished products, 1 output and a component. Your finished products are your products that you're receiving back from the co-manufacturer. Your output is the service that co-manufacturing supplier charges you, and component is anything that you're providing, okay? So back to our bill of materials, fundamentally, finished product is what you're receiving back, components what you're sending, output is the service or process that's being charged to you, okay? So you'll be able to select, using that terminology and methodology for the bill of materials, you'll be able to apply that to your bill of materials and select it correctly. Other than that, you'll need to make sure type is turned on to co-manufacturing, and in Work Center, you have your supplier selected, as we set up earlier. So that's the bill of materials. It's quite straightforward. By using the help article and the terminology that I've just explained there, you'll be able to configure your bill of materials to how you want it. Okay, just to go through that again, if we wanted to add our operation, we can click add an operation, select co-manufacturing, select what's being done, enter in the estimated time the entire process takes, select the co-manufacturing work center that we configured earlier. We can then add the relevant items in, terminology being component is the items that you're going to be sending to the co-manufacturer's location, finished product being the item you receive back as finished. Output is a service product for which the supplier charges you. Okay. So for example, if we were to just replicate the above, we were to enter in box. So we're going to send them a box. We're going to be receiving back the final painted chair. And throughout this process, they're charging us a painting and packing service. Okay, and you'll want to make sure, of course, you've got your components. Once you've done that, you're all ready to go and start processing your co-manufacturing orders, and we can go ahead and click save. If you do have any questions on bill of materials, because it can be quite complicated, feel free to leave a comment or search the DIA Inventory User Group on Facebook, and that's a good community where we monitor that closely. We have a community of people asking questions, and you can put your questions in there, and a member of the DIA group will get back to you, or myself, or one of the BlueHub team. So to get started, we'll go ahead and make sure our bill of materials is saved. We'll then go to production, create a new production order. And again, if you haven't watched our production videos already or our bill of materials videos, please go back and watch them first, because I may be scanning over some areas that you do need to understand if this is the first time seeing production. Okay. So we're going to enter in the item that we wish to make. So we'll enter in our final painted chair. We'll enter in the quantity that we wish to make. We'll enter in our shop floor. We'll make sure our finished goods and work in progress accounts are correct. We'll enter in our plan date and allow DIA to work out our release date and required by date. Then we'll go ahead and select our load bill of materials. Okay. You can see I have two versions in here, and that's why it's giving me the option, and that's because I have a full co-manufacturing version set up also. So this bill of materials is partial, we're only doing part of the process, and if I select full, this is what it would look like if they were doing the full process for me. It's one stage, we send them some lumber, box, paint, they charge us a packing service, and they deliver the final chair. Okay, so two versions there, but we're just going to look at partial today. Once we've done that, load bill of materials, we can go ahead and select authorize as part of the standard production process. Once we've selected authorize, we're then going to allow Dia to put that into our production schedule. At this point, we can see that we have most of our components in stock apart from our box and our paint, so we're going to need to buy those at some point. We can go ahead and click release, and that's why Dia will then look in the system and see any components that we need and potentially create some purchase orders for us if we do need to buy those raw materials. Once Dia has finished loading, you can see it has created a purchase order for me, which I can access at any time in related orders, and that is to actually go ahead and buy my box and my paint. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase those now. So before I get started with anything, I want to make sure I've got all my raw materials in. So I'm going to open up that purchase order now. I'm going to send that across to my supplier, and then I'm just going to receive that stock in like so. Make sure my tax rule is selected correctly. Authorize. It's going to ask me for it at the top. That's fine. And authorize. Now that we've authorized that, we can go back to our production order and get started. So we can go back to our production order, close that down. And what we can do now is go ahead and select production run. And this is how we process production orders in Dia. Again, if you haven't watched the video, please do go and watch it. We're then going to go ahead and select 1. We've now got our production run, and you can see on the left hand side it's outlined all the steps of our bill of materials. So we know that processing the lumber and assembling is done in-house, so we need to complete those before we can get started with co-manufacturing. So we can do that by just doing this nice and quick by using the auto consume button and starting and completing this operation. We can now complete this operation. We're going to sort our lumber maple. We're then going to go to the assembling step, and this is where we're going to get an output of our unpainted chair using our lumber. So again, we're going to auto consume, start and complete. Again, this is just standard production here of us making our own item because we're using partial. We're then going to complete our output to say where we're putting the item away. And next, and the final step, is to actually do our co-manufacturing. So what you'll see now is it looks a little bit different. You'll see that we have a big purple banner that says procurement, transfer components to co-manufacturer. So we know that this is a transfer mode operation, and we already know it's co-manufacturing here. So we need to provide our box and our paint. So to do this and actually start a co-manufacturing operation, all that you need to do is just go ahead and click the start button. When you click the start button, Dia is going to do a couple of things. It's going to create a purchase order for you and a transfer order if you're using transfer. If you're using buy/sell, it will create a sale order for you. Now that it's done that, we can select from the drop down list here, and we can open up our transfer, and we can also open up our purchase order. Now, our transfer is to actually move the raw materials to the co-manufacturer's location and send them the goods. The purchase order is to let the co-manufacturer know what we want and also to receive the finished output. Okay, so we can go into our transfer. We can see that we're moving this from the production facility to the co-manufacturing location. We can then go ahead and go to products, fill from order, enter in a stock send date, an in-transit account, and click send stock. That will then move the stock into in transit, and it's on its way. And once it's been delivered, we can apply a stock receive date and then go ahead and click complete. So now we've moved our stock from our location to the co-manufacturer's location. We can also let the co-manufacturer know in our purchase order that this is the finished item that we need. So you can see D has looked at our bill of materials, it's created a purchase order for the final output, and it's also added the additional cost service of painting and packing of £10. So we can email this across to our supplier to let them know this is what we want and we're sending some goods. And once they've received the goods and the purchase order, they can then go ahead and produce the final painted chair. Once they've done with that, what you'll then need to do is go to the stock received section. And once you've received the finished good back into your location, you'll then want to complete the stock received in the purchase order. So we can go copy from order, choose where we want the goods to go, and simply select authorize. Them goods will now then come back into our warehouse. If you went back to your production order right now, you would still need to complete it. But if you also input the invoice from the supplier, so when you receive the invoice for the process, it will complete it for you. So if I go ahead and put the invoice number in and the invoice date, click copy and then authorize, that's then that purchase process complete for the finished good. And now we can go back into our production order. We can give this a little bit of a refresh just to process all the actions that have been going on in the background. That's a top tip. Make sure you always refresh when doing co-manufacturing because you're going to be doing other operations and different tabs, and it just makes sure everything comes back. As you can see now, this production order is completed. If I go to the production run, you'll see that all the stages are completed, even the co-manufacturing, it's marked as complete. The output has been completed for us because we did that on the purchase order, and you can see the source of that was PO23, painted chair. It's been placed at the production facility, and this is now done. If we go over to our inventory and availability, and we can see we now have one product on hand like so. Okay, so that is the co-manufacturing process in Dia for transfer mode. We will have another video on buy/sell. There are quite a few steps in here, so if you do have any questions, let us know in the comments box down below, or feel free to head to our Facebook Dia inventory user group and ask a question in there. Hopefully this is useful and any feedback would be welcome. Please don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you for watching.